I hope you're having a great day. Well, today it may be evening where I am right now, but I want to talk about breakfast and how we've all been made to believe that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. You know, I'm guilty as well because that's what we learned and that's what we preached for many, many months and years, that breakfast is the most important meal of the day and we should not skip our breakfast. If we have breakfast, we have more chances of losing weight, our metabolic activity is higher and all of that stuff. Now we need to understand that there have been certain mindsets that we have molded over the years, and sometimes we need to challenge these mindsets and break them. Okay, now when I say that breakfast is not the most important meal of the day, this doesn't have to be the same for everyone. But for most people, and like I always say, use logic with a high dose of vitamin C, which is nothing but common sense when it comes to yourself. By me making a statement that breakfast isn't the most important meal of today doesn't mean that all of us stop eating breakfast. Look at your life. I started challenging this when I realized that there were patients, there were people who brought their kids and they were forcing them to eat their breakfast and they were just not hungry in the morning. They woke up and they didn't have an appetite. So now one thing I know for sure is when we force feed ourselves when we're not hungry, it puts intense burden on our digestive system. We got to produce more acid, more digestive enzymes, and it just goes against the natural cycle of the body, which is don't overfeed, don't overstuff ourselves. But yet, because it's drilled into our heads that breakfast is the most important meal of the day, we wake up with that routine every day. We sit down and we eat our breakfast by habit, even if we're not hungry. I saw this more with children, and children are very, very intuitive. They know what they want and when they want it. And most kids across the world do not wake up hungry. I said most kids, not everyone. There are some kids who wake up hungry every single morning and they need breakfast and they must have breakfast. It's the same thing with adults. Some adults wake up ravenous and hungry, so you must eat breakfast. This doesn't stand for you. But for the whole lot of population who has been forcing themselves to eat breakfast, we need to understand it is not mandatory to do that anymore. In fact, the people who do not feel hungry in the morning, you should not eat, including your children. They should not eat. Now, most parents are worried about their children. They feed them more because they want them to grow. But feeding your children more food doesn't mean that they grow more. Feeding your children at the right time and nutrient-dense foods will help them to grow. More doesn't mean more growth. So it's as simple as that. And what we understand is when you're not hungry in the morning, your body is still doing its cleanup process. It's still doing its detoxification, its repair, its growth, and all of those functions. And when it needs food, when it is beginning the building phase, it will ask you for food through your appetite. Your appetite is your mechanism that tells you when to feed and when to stop feeding. So when your appetite is low, you're not meant to eat. Your body doesn't want food at that particular point. And when it needs food to start its building process, it will ask you for food. So for some people, that signal may come at midday. For some people, it may come at mid-morning. But we do not have to eat breakfast. And when we deep dive into this, we find out that most of the curriculum is funded by food lobbyists, cereal companies, breakfast cereal companies, all insisting that it is the most important meal of the day because that's how you sell breakfast cereals. It's as simple as that. Now, ask yourself in the morning, like I said, don't message me and say, oh, should I eat or should I not eat? Ask yourself, if you do not wake up hungry in the morning, do not eat. Now, you need to understand the difference between physical hunger and emotional hunger. So sometimes when we're very stressed, some people eat more. Some people, when they're very stressed, they don't eat at all. So you need to determine between physical and emotional hunger, and of course, by sickness. Sometimes when the body cuts appetite, we may be very sick. So we don't want to miss that symptom or that signal of the body telling you that. So now what happens if you don't feed your kid in the morning? Nothing. They're just going to have a better school snack or a heavier lunch. And that is perfect. But when the body is in its detoxification mode, the appetite is shut off. So do not feed yourself more because you will spoil that process of the body. This is what makes intermittent fasting beautiful if you've not made it into a fad just yet. So most children are already intermittent fasting. Children who sleep well, they go to sleep by 7 or 8 in the evening and they have their breakfast in the morning. They've already built almost a 12-hour mechanism of natural fasting. And you'll find that kids don't have to eat as much as we do, but we force them as adults to eat as much as we do. And that is completely wrong. Kids do not need to snack in between. They need to have their 3 main meals or 2 main meals with 1 mid-morning snack or a mid-evening snack, depending on the cycle of your child's life. Their school timings, their eating timings, and their sleep timings. Just because we have got inside this rigid mechanism of eating every 2.5, 3.5 hours, it doesn't mean our kids have to follow that. So we need to follow the cycle of our own body. When our body tells us we're hungry, we eat. Okay? When it tells us to stop eating, we stop eating. Now, if you keep long gaps between your meals because you prioritize work or socializing and stuff like that, that's wrong. Because you're ignoring your hunger and you will get highly acidic. Intermittent fasting builds this cycle beautifully. For people who do not feel hungry in the morning, they are best off intermittent fasting because you don't have to wake up and have a breakfast. So if you finished an early dinner, you're building on 12, 13, 14, 15, maybe 16, maybe 17 hours of a natural fast. In that fasting period, your body's doing all the magic that we keep talking about, including your child's body. Most children today are worried about the growth of their child. We need to understand that all the growth happens when they're in the fasted state. All their growth happens when they're sleeping, which is when they're not eating. So if the body is automatically extending the fasting phase, something good is happening for your child or for you. So breakfast is no longer the most important meal of the day. In fact, there is no most important meal of the day. It's how we do it. Dinner is extremely important for all of us, but dinner should be light, dinner should be early. That's the important fact, not dinner. The way we eat dinner and how much we eat dinner. Now, if we look at lunch, most of us can get away with a beautiful, heavy lunch in the right quantity because at midday, our metabolic activity is at its highest. The metabolic fire in us is at its highest. So we can get away with lunch. Throw in a dessert at lunch. That's the best time to have a dessert, at lunchtime, because your metabolism is higher. But when we move towards dinner, extremely light, the right amount of protein, the right amount of fat, and more lesser on the carbs because we don't need energy towards nighttime. Of course, you're going to go partying out, socializing and out, then you have a normal dinner because you'll need those carbs or you'll get hungry. So there is no right or wrong for everyone. People who are hungry in the morning, please eat breakfast, but do not force the people who are not hungry to eat a breakfast because you're trying to follow some pattern that man has defined for every human being. That's wrong right there because every human being is different in every way. Every human being is different from one another. So we cannot follow a mechanism that defines the biology, chemistry, and physiology of the human body. So no longer is breakfast the most important meal of the day if it doesn't suit you. If you need breakfast, eat it. If not, build a beautiful fasting cycle. Eat only when your body tells you to break the fast. And in that fasting time, there's going to be magic that happens in your body. Your appetite's going to cut down. Your cravings are going to cut down. Your energy levels. So most parents begin to think that, oh, but want my child, they want to be able to concentrate at school. They want to have energy. Let me tell you, most children today with ADHD and concentration issues and who feel lethargic during classrooms is because their breakfast was too carb heavy. They had too much of honey and maple syrup and jam and bread and high starchy carbohydrate food. So they had a spike in their energy and then a huge slump, and that's why they're lethargic. But children who don't eat and they eat when they're hungry, or even young adults, their energy levels and concentration levels will be sky high until the time their body demands them for food. And when they're hungry, they must eat. When you're hungry, you must eat. So if you don't have your breakfast, this saves a lot of time and a lot of stress for parents around the world and including yourself. You can use that breakfast time for your meditation, for your workout, spending time with your kids. You don't have to force feed them. I've seen parents like literally running with a bowl of cereal right until their kids are in the car or even getting into the school bus. Do you think any of that food's actually going to digest? Your child's moving, they're stressed, they're running, and you're feeding them while they're running. Useless. That food is doing nothing for your child. They either eat it when they're relaxed and sitting down and complete assimilation and digestion, or they don't eat it at all. It's ridiculous. Just because we need to get food into our child's body, we force feed them. If they're not hungry, don't let them eat. Their body will tell them when they're hungry. And if you follow these natural cycles, we have to break away from the cycles that have been defined by bodies, by man, by all of these things, because it's not taken into consideration that everyone is different. You follow your own cycle. If you're mindful, you will know your cycle of eating. When you need to eat, when you don't have to eat. If you're mindful, your body will tell you exactly when to do that. So please understand, do not force feed your children to eat breakfast. There is nothing in having breakfast if you are not hungry. If you are hungry, go ahead and have a beautiful breakfast that has good quality carbohydrates, good quality fats, and good quality protein. That makes a great breakfast for people. And don't compare yourself with people. Some people who have a physically demanding job may need a breakfast in the morning. Some people who have a mentally demanding job may also need a breakfast, because when we use mental power, we need carbohydrates, we need energy. So don't compare yourselves. Don't compare yourselves with anyone or your children with anyone. If it suits you, do it. If it doesn't, don't do it. Simple as that. Have a great day, everyone. Until next time, eat smart, move more, sleep right, and breathe deep.